This publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve.
When you use hatred and bigotry and lying and you're a young black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president.
It's just outrageous what the left is doing, the false narratives that they are establishing.
The father of an ISIS bride is suing Trump administration to bring her home. Hoda Mathana's family wants to affirm she is an American citizen.
This video is shocking. A conservative activist attacked while recruiting at UC Berkeley.
This person claimed we were promoting violence on campus and proceeded to take his aggression out on us.
Michael Bublé hands the microphone over to a fan and she blows him away. Until 5 o'clock, the dancing begins.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you very much for joining us. And once again today, that's the lead story right there.
And next to Brian.
Right. So Jussie might be facing justice.
Yeah, straight to this Fox News alert. Actor Jussie Smollett is maintaining his innocence still, as Chicago police accuse him of plotting an elaborate hate crime.
At this hour, Smollett is out on bond and already back on the set of Empire, where he apologized and said he's innocent.
But is he? Matt Finn is live in Chicago with why prosecutors believe this was all a big publicity stunt. Matt, not a lot of mystery here. They spelled the whole thing out.
Well, Chicago's police superintendent and state prosecutors are slamming Smollett, saying that he did concoct this elaborate hoax that involved a fake death threat letter and a staged attack on the streets of Chicago. But Jussie Smollett's legal team is fighting back, writing in a statement in part, quote, "We witnessed an organized law enforcement spectacle that has no place in the American legal system. Mr. Smollett is a young man of impeccable character and integrity who fiercely and solemnly maintains his innocence and feels betrayed by a system that apparently wants to skip due process and proceed directly to sentencing. Police and prosecutors allege Smollett carried out with a fake attack because that death threat letter with a MAGA return address did not get him enough attention. Police say Smollett cut the Osundairo brothers a $3,500 check to pretend to beat him on the streets of Chicago. He instructed them to shout, 'This is MAGA country,' and to call him racial and homophobic slurs and to put a noose around his neck. In a packed courtroom yesterday, a judge publicly chastised Smollett, saying the noose, if true, is the most disturbing part because it conjures up the greatest evil in this country's history. Chicago's police superintendent says this city embraced Smollett and then he turned around and slapped it in the face. Absolute justice would be an apology to this city that he smeared, admitting what he did, and then be man enough to offer what he should offer up in terms of all the resources that were put into this. The FBI is investigating the alleged death threat letter. If it determines that Smollett played a role in it or sent it to himself, he faces serious federal charges. Jussie Smollett did return to the Empire set here in Chicago shortly after he was released from jail yesterday. He is set to appear in court on the charge of filing a false police report next month. Back to you guys.
All right, Matt, thank you very much.
Shameless. The whole thing is shit. How does you watch the police superintendent spell out exactly what you do in detail? They have the two witnesses you paid, the check that you wrote, the magazine where the letters were cut out were found in the brother's house.
You got the phone records that show he called them before the attack, after the attack, when they were in another country.
It's like he's living on another scene, like from another movie. He's cutting out letters from magazines and putting it on that letter that he sent to himself.
Right.
Making up this whole thing, allegedly.
True. Apparently the plan was, okay, attack me near my apartment, beat me up, but not too bad.
They think he beat himself up. They thought he punched himself.
They said that the brothers wore gloves during the stage attack and did punch him, but the scratches and the bruises on his face most likely self-inflicted. But the part that Matt just read from the legal team, there was one more line, and the legal team, his legal team, put out why they feel he has been wrongly accused and is being railroaded. They said that this all happened on the eve of a mayoral election.
Well,
in other words, they're suggesting it's political.
Exactly.
The only political stuff I remember from this case is when he told people that the people who beat him up were talking about MAGA.
Well, and then you watch that Robin Roberts interview now, and you're like, oh my gosh, he was crying in that interview. All an act. If he really did this, if he made up all this hoax. He went to the Empire set, according to TMZ yesterday, and they have They have another week and a half of shooting, basically another week of shooting. So they need to finish out this episode and a half that they have left. So I'm sure they're wondering, do we replace him with someone else who looks like him? Do we keep him acting because he hasn't been proven guilty yet? But he looked at the crowd that he acts with and he says, I'm so sorry I've put you all through this. I'm sorry I haven't answered your calls. I want to say that I'm sorry. You know me. I would never do any of this. You're my family. I swear to God, I did not do this. Still doubling down.
And I read that TMZ report, and it said that several cast members want him written out immediately, but other cast members believe him because they cannot fathom him pulling off a hoax like this.
He's beyond a sociopath. He gives a bad name to sociopaths. And just think about this. It's so obvious if you see the police superintendent say what he said and the details in which this case was unwound and presented. However, it's amazing how some still don't want to blame the guy who made up the entire story. Listen.
I don't know if it's up to us to make some sense of it. And I will not throw him under the bus. Is it a big, bad mistake? Absolutely. But a lot of people have made some awful, big, bad mistakes. Now, we can make up whatever we want to make up about it. But he told a lie the same way the leader of this country does every day.
When you use hatred and bigotry and lying for your own selfish end and you're a young black kid, gay black kid, you get indicted. If you do it when you're an old white guy, you become president.
I still don't know all of the details. I'm waiting for the final results of all of this. If, in fact, it's a hoax, of course I would be disappointed.
Does she have audio on her television? Did she see what goes on? Does she understand? Does she understand the two black guys from Nigeria? Well, actually, via America. Or does she believe the actor? So you can't have it both ways.
Ultimately, he's been charged, and now the whole case is going to be adjudicated. It certainly was damning the way the superintendent laid it out, but then again, and he made it very clear. We didn't know the story from the brothers until the 47th hour of the 48 hours they were able to keep him. Had they not spilled the beans in that 47th hour, they would have gone free 1 hour later, and nobody would have known.
Yeah, one difference was in the last minute they decided no bleach, no gasoline, we'll use bleach instead, but it does not add up. It does not make sense. He wasted a lot of man hours, a lot of goodwill, and it's amazing how people now want to wait, in some cases, for the final verdict to come in, but as soon as he made the complaint, everyone believed him and willing to say, that's typical Donald Trump supporters. It sounds exactly what will happen in the streets of Chicago at 2 in the morning at -5 degrees.
Rush Limbaugh was saying the same thing. He was saying basically that the media and all those out there that were rushing to condemn the attacker, that they really wanted the story to be true.
How do you know what Rush said?
Sometimes I listen to him.
Okay, let's go.
The left is nothing but phony hate crimes. Phony alleged hate crimes, phony charges, made-up stories. You know these things probably aren't true, but they want them to be, and that's why they report them as true. So, in the mind of the American left, these crimes are happening everywhere. Even if the Smollett case isn't real, it's real elsewhere, and we must raise consciousness. It's just outrageous what the left is doing to this country, the picture of this country that they're painting each and every day, the false narratives that they are establishing, many of which they know to be untrue.
It's a commercial.
And then he did go to and so apparently the story is MAGA he scripted, directed, and starred in his own hate crime, all for a raise. According to the police, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Jesse was making $125,000
How do you live on
every episode.
You can't live on that.
Somehow they do. Meanwhile, let's talk about Showtime. They've got a program called DeSeuss and Mero, and they had on it 3 of the freshman congresswomen. They had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, and Ilhan Omar, and they filmed it in AOC's office, and they talked about why is it the 3 of you have wound up with so much publicity, and in particular, Tlaib made headlines when she said on the night everybody was sworn into the House that she was going to impeach the president and referred to him in awful language. Listen to this.
And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't. Because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
So those 2 comedians on Showtime, they asked, it's a show that comes on late night, and they asked the 3 freshman congresswomen why they say that. Can you explain why you're saying that about the president? Listen to this.
This is my girl Ilhan from.
Right. And it seems like we're all radical because we deeply care about the people that we represent and we want to throw down for them.
So they're deeply radical because they care about the people they represent.
Keep it real. Keep it real, everyone.
Like, I know exactly what you mean.
Like you do?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, that's coming, it reveals the mindset, and the three of them have gotten so much publicity, and that's what they were talking about. Why do you think so many members of the press are interested in what you're saying?
Right. And I would believe that AOC would be well going to bat for her own people if she had an office in Queens. She has yet to find an office. So how could you represent the people if you have no place to go?
She's a little busy.
Yeah.
She's a little busy.
All right, so what do you think? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Meanwhile, 7-Eleven here in New York City. Some liberal cities are proud to be sanctuaries, including New York City. But now Florida, the state of, is one step closer to banning sanctuary cities in the entire state. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi here to weigh in next.
Plus, they must be feeling down in the mouth why the Tooth Fairy is getting cheap with kids.
Every 15 minutes, Fox News headlines 24/7, channel 115.
We will stand for the rule of law. We will not allow sanctuary cities, and we will stop incentivizing illegal immigration, which is unfair to our legal immigrants, promotes lawlessness, and reduces wages for our blue-collar workers.
The state of Florida is one step closer to fulfilling Governor Ron DeSantis' promise on banning so-called sanctuary cities. A new bill just approved by the Florida State Senate Judiciary Committee would require state and local law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. And cities that don't cooperate could be fined up to $5,000 a day, and that would get their attention. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi joins us right now from Tallahassee with the very latest. Pam, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Now, when you were Attorney General, I know you and Governor Scott would occasionally get these the burn grants, which was money from the federal government to extend to localities to help them with law enforcement. But there was a stipulation, and that is got to cooperate with the feds, right?
You have to cooperate with the feds. And Governor Scott and I both had to say that to get this money, all of our police chiefs wanted it, all of our sheriffs, for good reasons, and it also goes to Project Safe Neighborhoods. And to get this money, you had to say that you're not going to have sanctuary cities. And the word sanctuary city, it's a bit misleading because these aren't just all great people there. You don't know who's there. You don't know if a sex offender could be mixed in with people who are there. And so it's lawful for ICE to come in and they have to follow the law, these cities. And this is a lot of money to help keep our streets, our kids, our citizens safe. And so I'm so proud of Governor DeSantis, and Senator Joe Gruters sponsored this bill, and Joe did a great job at this. It's very important for our state and protecting our kids and all of our citizens.
Well, you know, one of the problems that we have unfortunately become too aware of over the last number of years is when there's a sanctuary city and they are holding somebody who is wanted by the federal government, is a criminal alien, and the federal government wants to start the process to get them out of the country if that is how that case has been adjudicated. But a lot of these sanctuary cities don't cooperate with ICE, and next thing you know, this criminal alien is back out on the street. Now, if Florida is considering this ban, does that mean some city is on the verge of declaring, you know what, we've decided we want to be a sanctuary city?
Well, we don't want that to happen for the reasons I just discussed, for the safety of our citizens. And we're all, our state, I hope our whole country is about legal immigration. That's what we're founded on. But that's protecting people who have federal detainers. And you can't violate federal law, nor should you want to. And we also want to protect our citizens with all this great grant money that my state got, and multiple states throughout the country got. So yes, if ICE has a detainer, it's pretty much common sense. A city has to follow the law, and it's a shame that we need legislation like this, but we do. And hopefully it will pass, and I'm certain Governor DeSantis, he's doing a great job, will sign it.
Well, you know, I'm sitting in New York City, and, you know, it's a sanctuary city, so it's a whole different scenario up here. Florida Democratic Senator Javier Rodriguez put out this statement, said there's a lot of things we ought to be doing to try to make communities safer and try to deal with the issues of racial profiling, and what this bill does is the opposite. It really forces all levels of local government to engage with the federal government in ways that currently are not required by law and make their decisions and their missions more difficult. I'll give you 20 seconds to respond.
Well, this is about the rule of law in the most basic form. It's called following the law. And our cities and counties can't disregard federal law. Federal law will always trump state law, and they have to comply with it. And it is keeping our citizens safe, because we have to background people too to know, what if you had a registered, and I'm not saying the majority of these people are, but what if you had a registered sex offender? You're not going to know it. A child molester, you're not going to know it. So this is about keeping our citizens safe, and immigration the legal way.
All right. Pam Bondi, former Attorney General for Florida. Pam, thank you very much. Meanwhile, shocking video from the University of California at Berkeley. A conservative activist attacked while trying to recruit out in California. We're going to hear the story and see the pictures coming up.
Oh,
Front View News by the numbers. First, 60,000. That's the cost of a trip Democrats took to see a Beyonce concert. In December, 5 members of the Congressional Black Caucus flew to South Africa for the Global Citizen Mandela 100 concert. It was paid for by a nonprofit. Next, $5 million. That's how much New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration must pay for claiming ineligible FEMA funds. The city claimed 132 Department of Transportation vehicles were ruined in Superstorm Sandy, but they were damaged before the storm, or they were already junked before the storm. The payout is part of a very substantial settlement. And $3.70, that's how much the average kid gets from the Tooth Fairy. That's a lot of change to leave under a pillow. According to the insurance firm Delta Dental Plans Association, her rate is going down for the second straight year. That is, the Tooth Fairies. All right, Brian?
We'll see if that affects the market.
What's the going rate nowadays?
Meanwhile, a conservative, as we switch gears, Ainsley, a conservative activist allegedly assaulted for promoting his conservative beliefs at UC Berkeley campus. This brutal attack caught on camera. Watch.
Jesus Christ. What?
Oh, gosh, poor guy. Alexander Sarka is a student at UC Berkeley and witnessed that exchange, and he joins us now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, Alexander. Tell us what happened.
So effectively, what happened was I got out of class, and I went to Sproul Plaza, which is the main area on campus, in which students and other people are free to table and give out flyers, this sort of thing. And I noticed that there was a table that says something to the effect of, "Beware of false hate crimes." Obviously a reference to the recent Justice Smollett incident. And as soon as I noticed that, I was drawn to a verbal altercation that was occurring between the individual tabling, Hayden, and a few other people. And then that quickly escalated from a verbal altercation into a violent altercation where the table was flipped by the individual who you see punching the man. And then from there I started to record, and I was lucky enough to get the most egregious parts of the incident on camera.
But you didn't get everything. But first off, how is it that we haven't found this guy yet? You have a full shot of his face on video. I mean, come on. He's most likely a student who has a backpack on. Is any effort being made to find this guy?
Honestly, I can't weigh in on that. I know that the response from the university has been very weak sauce, in my opinion. The statement that Chancellor Carol Christ sent out was a very blanket condemnation of violence, and it really didn't go into the specifics of the case, despite the viral nature of this.
Let me read that statement so folks at home can make their own judgments. She says, "Let there be no mistake, we strongly condemn violence and harassment of any sort for any reason. At this point, we have no information indicating that the perpetrators are affiliated with the university, and I join our police department in urging anyone with information about the incident to come forward so we can apprehend and bring the perpetrator to justice." So you're not happy with that. You said it's 2 weeks, you saw?
Well, I'm not given the context because if you see the last statement that she sent out before that, it was about 3 times longer, and it went into much more specificity, much more what's the word? Much more
detail.
Much more emotion was behind it. You could obviously tell, and that was just addressing some comments that were made about certain faculty members being plants or agents of Chinese or Iranian governments. And while I agree with her statement that I completely agree with the tone and tenor that she took with that, she did not apply that same passion, that same specificity
what was
to this case.
What was Hayden Williams, the guy who got punched? He was on with Sean last night, Sean Hannity. What was his reaction? What was he doing? Is there anything we didn't see on this video? Because everyone wants to know the whole story when we see these videos now.
No, I definitely agree with. So you have to understand that I only briefly. It was just an extremely fortuitous event that happened to be walking by when this event transpired very quickly. All I know is that he was standing there. He was at the table, and he was obviously had provocative material for Berkeley.
Yeah, for Berkeley, because he said, beware of false hate crimes. Why should that be offensive to anybody?
Within the Berkeley context, it's offensive because it's like, obviously they're like making fun of like the Jussie Smollett incident. That's obviously the perception here.
Well, put it this way. Look at the face. Look at the video. Any officer in that area knows who this guy is. They can find him in 9 seconds. So they're not making any effort.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm simply just saying, I've come on this show because I want to prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law. Yeah. And I've been talking to every media outlet I can from across the political spectrum because I absolutely believe that he should be prosecuted and apprehended.
You're well-spoken. We appreciate you getting this on video so that we can find out who this person is and police can get to the bottom of it. Thank you so much for being brave.
Right.
Absolutely. It's good to be here.
That guy should have been arrested already. Meanwhile.
All right, 30 minutes after the top of the hour, a state senator trashing the American flag, comparing Old Glory to a swastika. The comments sparking outrage this morning.
Plus, Democrats say we don't need a wall. Pete Hegseth just got back.
Who says empire? This MAGA country ties a noose around your neck.
Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career.
I noticed the rope around my neck and I started screaming.
Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations?
You do such a disservice when you lie about things like this.
How can an individual who's been embraced by the city of Chicago turn around and slap everyone in this city in the face by making these false claims?
So they get to go free and go about their life and possibly attack someone else?
This publicity stunt was a scar that Chicago didn't earn and certainly didn't deserve.
Emotions running high as new details emerge in the Jussie Smollett case. The Empire actor now released from custody after posting a $100,000 bond and is facing felony charges for filing a false police report and an alleged hate crime hoax. Here to weigh in is Chicago native Pastor Corey Brooks, former congressional press secretary for House Democrats and political analyst Rochelle Ritchie, and Democratic strategist Richard Fowler. Thank you all for being with us.
Good morning, Ainsley.
Good morning. Rochelle, I'll start with you. What do you think Jussie Smollett's agenda was?
I really don't know. And at this point, even though, this is a lie by Jussie, it does not negate the fact that racism is real in this country. And I really think that he has done a disservice to people who are going to be, unfortunately, victims of hate crimes. But I think we also have to recognize that racism has been used as a tool in this country. Black people using it against white people using it against black people. And I think that Jussie's case highlights that fact. I mean, who can forget in 1994 was Susan Levon Smith accused a black man of murdering her children when in fact she is the one that murdered her 3-year-old and 14-month-old. Also, the most egregious case I can think of in our history that got national attention was that of Carolyn Bryant, who should still be held as an accomplice to the murder of Emmett Till. So it's unfortunate, and I think that we have to find a way to silence bigotry and hate so that we cannot use it against each other.
You know, Richard, he's famous. He's from Chicago. Everyone there is so proud of him, or was so proud of him. He had an opportunity at on a national stage to really push his agenda and to do good for his causes. As a black man, as a gay man, what do you think about this?
Well, first is this. I mean, I think if this is the hoax, and the reason why I use if is because Jesse deserves due process just like every other American does, and we have to see what these court cases come out and what they say. But if this is a hoax, then here's what we have to realize is that Jesse's case is an exception, not a norm, because each and every day there are LGBTQ folks who are beaten because of how they show up in the world. It happens in Chicago. It happens right here in Washington, D.C. It happens in Atlanta. It happens in New York. And it happens in Los Angeles, where mega DNC donor Brooks is still walking free when 2 black men were found dead in his home. So we have real problems in this country that we've got to deal with, but we can't sit here and look at the boxes, look at this one case and say, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's remember that hate crimes are up, and hate crimes are real, and hate crimes happen to people that I know each and every day.
Yeah, Pastor Brooks, he makes a great point. What do you think about that? Is the media going to change the way they cover these stories because they're scared, they don't know the truth? Who's telling the truth? What does this mean going forward for people who are really victims of hate crimes?
Well, going forward, I would hope that hate crime victims would get the attention that they need. I really feel bad about the whole situation here in Chicago, especially since we already have a cloud over our city with so much violence going on. A lot of people don't understand that by him doing this, it took a lot of resources away from our city. Only 17% of murders are solved in the city of Chicago. Only 7% violent crimes or non-homicides are solved. So, it took a lot from our city, and I hope and pray that things will be worked out.
Well, what is the city of Chicago saying? Are they still supporting him? Because apparently, according to TMZ, he was on the set of Empire yesterday, and he said he's so sorry. He would never do any of this. You're my family. I swear to God, I did not do this.
Well, in Chicago, a lot of people didn't believe the story anyway, so I'm just going to be truthful about it. You go on social media, if you go on Facebook, social media, Twitter, in the neighborhood, there are a lot of people who just didn't believe that there are going to be 2 white individuals walking around at 20 below in the winter of Chicago and happen to stumble upon him and do this vicious act. So it's very disheartening, and it's really despicable if this is true, that he would do such a thing to the city of Chicago.
Ainsley, can I jump in really quick? Yeah. I understand that it was cold in Chicago, and I want to take the logistics out of this for a minute. The reason why this story was believable for so many people in the LGBT and in the black community is because we have seen multiple times in which we have been victims. When you have black people getting the police called on them for having a barbecue, for going to the pool with socks on, for studying in their dormitory, it's not hard and it's not inconceivable to think that something like this could potentially happen. I understand it was cold, but if you look at the racial tensions in our country right now, this is something that is very possible, and it is happening.
Yeah. I think that's a good point that Rochelle brings up. And you think about in Chicago, you have the case of Laquan McDonald, which is why people were very slow in the black and LGBTQ community to believe the Chicago Police Department at base, because after the Laquan McDonald cover-up, people were like, well, I know that there's a breakdown in trust between communities of color and police, and I also know that this is somebody who is beloved by the black community, whose character had broken the lines when it comes to talking about homophobia in the black community. And so this has been a very, very hard couple of days for people in the LGBTQ community and for people of color because of who Jesse represents and what Jamal Lyons' character on the show Empire meant to the community.
Thank you all for being with us. I really appreciate you all weighing in. Have a good weekend. Thank you. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
That's right. Good morning to you, Ainsley. To you at home as well. A conservative activist is assaulted at UC Berkeley. Did you see this video? It's really shocking, showing the suspect curse and throw a punch at the student at a recruitment drive. The victim is now speaking out.
Some students took offense to our sign that we had that said, hate crime hoaxes hurt real victims. And this person claimed we were promoting violence on campus and proceeded to take his aggression out on us.
Well, the person who recorded the alleged attack will join Fox and Friends in the next hour. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, police are searching for the unidentified suspect. These vandals apparently need a bit of a history lesson. A statue of a World War II hero is set on fire, seemingly because of his last name. North Carolina police believe the criminals confused Major General William C. Lee for Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Bit of a difference. The crooks caused hundreds of dollars in damages and left burn marks on the monument. There is a reward out for information. Michael Bublé hands the microphone over to a fan and she blows him away. Check it out. Stunning the crowd at Madison Square Garden, singing At Last. The University of Delaware student will join us on Fox and Friends tomorrow. What a voice.
She passed the audition.
I have so many questions for her. Did they know each other? How did he know when he handed her the mic
for her interview tomorrow?
Remember, Courtney Cox was pulled out of the audience on that Bruce Springsteen video, and it's like, wow, can you believe she can dance? And how well it was all choreographed.
That was staged.
Yeah, I did not know. It took years for me to find that out.
Well, I wonder if this is. We'll have to ask her tomorrow.
All right, Jillian, thank you very much. Meanwhile, straight ahead.
42 minutes after the top of the hour, a state senator trashing the American flag, comparing Old Glory to a swastika. The comment sparking outrage this morning.
Plus, John James reportedly in the running to be the next UN ambassador. Would he want the job? Will he get the job? We'll ask him.
And it's the question on many Jeopardy fans' minds, who will be Alex Trebek's replacement? His surprising answer coming up. You're watching Fox and Friends for a Friday.
In the form of a question.
A small peacekeeping force, and maybe international troops will join them. As President Trump withdraws forces, they were up at 2,000 to the war-torn country. Senator Lindsey Graham, a critic of the president's policy in Syria when it came to pulling out the troops, says this. She's praising the idea, and he tweets this out. This will ensure ISIS does not return and Iran does not fill the vacuum. That would have been left if we completely withdrew. This decision will ensure that we will not repeat the mistakes of Iraq in Syria. And he salutes the president. Here to react is former Michigan GOP Senate candidate himself, Army veteran John James. John, are you happy with the president going from 2,000 said to 0 to 200?
Well, I'm always going to be happy with the president pulling our men and women in harm's way out of harm's way and also doing so responsibly. I agree. I believe that the 200 that are remaining will keep Turkey out of the Syrian conflict, will also keep Iran's ambitions at bay. I believe that Iran's ambitions are abetted by Russian aggression and pushing south and allowing Iran to say things like death to America, death to Israel. We need to make sure that we maintain our support of Israel and that scaling back our presence in the region is done so in a responsible manner.
So moving on to, and we'll see where it goes because the president's going to speak to the Turkish president today. We know what's going to be happening next week. The president's going off to Vietnam to meet with Kim Jong-un. A lot of people simply look at this and say, he hasn't got rid of his nuclear weapons, it's a waste of time. But of all places, the Washington Post breaks down some progress being made. An example, North Korea slowed its weaponization, designing, building, and testing, delivery systems development. It's limited the sophistication and reach of its arsenal, which is a big problem because we thought they could reach our West Coast. And our findings indicate that the latter outweighs the former, and the latter being that they have not, they've expanded their bomb fuel inventory, but they've cut back on these things. So there is some progress being made already. What do you want to see happen when it's all said and done?
There's definitely been progress being made, and it would not have happened without the leadership of this president. I truly believe that these steps have been made, but we cannot expect an immediate thaw of a 75-year Cold War in a matter of 48 months. I believe that we need to make sure we manage our expectations and realize that Kim Jong-un is terrified. He is a hermit dictator who's taking a green and yellow train from Pyongyang to Hanoi, and he's using these nukes as his insurance policy against the West. I believe that President Trump's leadership in getting North Korea to toe the line, to approach the table, and to have verifiable denuclearization in the foreseeable future. I applaud the president for his initiatives, and I'm wishing him the best of luck when he goes to Hanoi.
Best of luck. A lot of people are wishing you because the word is you're one of the finalists to be the next candidate to be the UN ambassador replacing Nikki Haley. What would that mean to you, John? What do you bring to the table?
It would be incredible, and it's an honor to even be considered. But I'll tell you what, We have plenty of foreign policy experience in Turtle Bay. What we need is more leadership experience in Turtle Bay. I have battle-tested leadership experience. I have business-tested leadership experience. We don't need more resolutions and rhetoric. We need to heal the world by getting people together, accomplishing tough missions, and I bring real-world experience and the ability to be able to be a messenger for America's priorities all over the world and in New York, based upon the pleasure of the President and in the priorities of the Secretary of State as well. If I get the call, I believe that I would serve well, I serve honorably, energetically, and effectively.
Real quick, John, have they started background checking you?
Well, I don't know what the federal government is doing on me, but I can assure you that they won't find very much. But it is an honor to be considered, and we've been in talks in the past, and it's an honor to be considered.
I mean, vetting you. They have to vet all their people. I'm not saying that there's any problem in your background, because it's a long process. John James, best of luck.
Thanks a lot.
All right. It would certainly be a great move, I think. Meanwhile, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, remember when Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib said this after winning her race?
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
How these three are explaining that in an interview you have to see. We'll tell you about the other two. And remember when ads promoting terror popped up on YouTube? The company promised to crack down. But has anything really changed? The results next.
About 2 years ago, hundreds of companies were pulling money from YouTube after their ads were showing up next to very inappropriate content, some of which was promoting terrorism.
YouTube promised they were going to crack down on this, and many companies came back. But today, new reports about inappropriate content are back in the news. And here to explain is Kurt, the cyber guy. What's going on,
Hey, good
Kurt?
morning, guys. Yeah, you would think after that statement they came out that was so strong 2 years ago, it would all be fixed, right? Not a chance. It's all the same. 2 years later, we now have somebody pointing out to YouTube that and this is disgusting, in the area, you know, you're in the car and you get your kids and they're busy and you hand them a tablet or they've got a phone and they're watching YouTube videos, kids videos. And nothing wrong with that until you go down in the comments section, and what they're discovering is that pedophiles are trying to attract children in the comment sections of some videos that you thought were safe for your children. And as it turns out, nobody is stopping these disgusting human beings from doing perverted things online.
Where are the filters?
Where are they, right? They should start actually in Washington, don't you think? If the tech companies themselves continue to fail, and I remind you that YouTube is owned by Google, and as you remember what Google is, it's not just the Google machine that we search for, it's the surveillance company that has mastered surveilling humankind for profit. And their interest in actually taking care of us is proven again in this, that they have no care in the world and nobody is policing them, and there's not any meaningful law on the books that says, hey, don't do this. And that's because so much money is being spent on lobbyists in Washington.
But look at what's happening. Companies are pulling their ads. Disney, Nestle, Epic Games, AT&T, and Hasbro are also offended by this. They're taking action.
And they did 2 years ago. They came right back after YouTube said, oh, no, we're going to fix this. Well, here they are again. And guess what? They're probably going to come out with another statement that says, hey, we're so sorry. We can't imagine that this even happened. So
because the last thing they want is government regulation.
That is true. And the thing they really don't want are advertisers to start pulling the revenue off of YouTube.
Well, the guy who created it, Matt Watson, he's calling them out on this. He's really upset.
He uploaded a video.
All right, here's the statement from
YouTube to Fox and Friends.
All right, any content, including comments that endangers minors, is abhorrent, and we have clear policies prohibiting this on YouTube. We took immediate action, and we continue to work to improve and catch abuse more quickly.
Here it is. I'm all about less government, but I can't stand the fact that these tech companies just have a free-for-all in our lives that have such detrimental effects.
Thank you for getting this message out, because those of us with small kids, no more YouTube.
Grown kids shouldn't see it.
True.
Adults shouldn't see some of that stuff. I'm sorry, Kurt. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, coming up, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Senator Tim Scott, and Geraldo. They're all here live.